Hey friends, welcome. It's great to see so many of you, and hello to my steadfast webinar buddies. I've got Laura, let's see, we've got Gina, Heather, Stephanie, and it's great to see you, Robbie, John. For those that don't know me, my name is Janelle, and I work with the team here at Rentec Direct just to make sure you have the tools you need to feel confident and successful in your accounts. So I'm super happy you're joining me today. I want to get Catherine, who leads up your client success team, to come on stage. Catherine, are you there?
Hi, Janelle. Yes, I'm here. And hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar regarding managed bank accounts. And just want to let you know that we have that questions tab. And I'd love for some of you to interact with us today and tell you where you are coming in from. Like, we're in Grants Pass, Oregon. So where are you?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. You know, Catherine's here with us today just because she is so knowledgeable, and she's going to get through all your questions related to managing bank accounts inside your Rentec Direct account. And you're going to notice an option that she mentioned. It's in your webinar screen to send us your bank account questions and also tell us where you're coming from. I love that. I like to see where people are sitting down and joining us. So these Q&As are going to be visible to all the webinar attendees, so I just want to mention that. And if we miss answering any questions during the webinar, we will be sure to respond via email after it concludes. So don't worry if it gets really busy and the questions are full, we will get you an answer for sure. So because managing bank accounts, touches in on several areas of your software, we have a lot of information we're going to be covering today. And you may have already mastered some of the information, but I'm sure you're going to glean some new information, and you're going to be able to implement this right after the webinar. So if you're brand new to Rentec Direct, here's the landing page when you first log in. You're going to notice the Accounts tab, and that's where we'll be managing your bank accounts. And for all of our newbies, adding a bank account is your second setup step. And many of the activities that you are going to be doing in your account relies on this bank account information. So it's highly recommended you don't skip over this step. And it's very easy to add in a bank account. Just simply use the button on the left in the Accounts tab. And when you're keying in details about your bank account, just know that all that's absolutely necessary in the beginning is an account name. However, the more details you add during this initial step, it's just the more seamless your workflow experience is going to be. So we get asked this question often from new clients, and I know Catherine can echo this with me. Does this mean when I'm adding in a bank account, I'm syncing my actual bank account into Rentec just by clicking Add Bank Account? And the short answer is no. So unless you activate the Bank Sync feature, which we're going to talk about later, this is simply a bookkeeping ledger to record transactions into so that you can effectively manage, the banking aspects of your property management business. So don't worry, you're not activating any live syncs by adding a bank account. And while you're filling out this page, if you have a question about any of the fields, just hover over those question marks for an explanation. So if you will be printing checks, I want to point something out, or if you're going to be doing bank deposit slips through your account, just be sure to enter your account numbers. And I want to mention that you should keep in mind that some banks now require a different routing number for deposit slips than for checks. Catherine brought that up to me yesterday, and I wanted to make sure to share that with you. So if you plan to print checks through your account, you will have the option to use either blank check stock or pre-printed stock. And you'll also want to manage your accounting default settings related to printing checks. When you first start to add in your bank accounts, you'll notice a preloaded account that we call Undeposited Funds. And this account is used in conjunction with your bank accounts that you add into your Rentec account. And it's used if you plan to create bank deposits in your Rentec account, either for actually printing out the deposit slip to take to your bank, or if you're just wanting to mirror what's happening in your true bank account in like a batch deposit, such as ACH or credit card payments, or just those bank deposits you take in and delivered to the bank. So there's a detailed knowledge base article that will walk you through all the ins and outs of undeposited funds, and we're going to show you how to make a deposit later in this webinar. But let's move right over to your true bank accounts. So when you're adding your bank account into your Rentec Direct account, unless you're adding a brand new bank account, you're going to want to record a starting balance. So your Rentec Direct ledgers are going to match your actual bank account statements. And to enter your starting balance, just click on the account balance, and you're going to select the Update Balance button right there at the top. And in this page, you're going to want to enter a date and a balance that all future transactions are going to be applied to. And then moving forward, those future bank account related transactions will post after this balance, and you should be able to reconcile your account then very easily. So for existing clients, this pointer is for you. If you have struggled with missing accounting entries and you can't seem to reconcile your bank account after all your efforts, this feature is going to help you get your ledgers back on track with an accurate ledger balance. It's really helpful to do, towards the beginning of a month or, the beginning of the year if you can. But I've seen clients elect to update a bank ledger balance at the end of the calendar year so that the future year is correct. And we're only into March, so that's not too much of a struggle for everyone, I don't think. So talk to your accountant to learn if this is a good solution for you to use this to update your balance. So let's talk about fees. Under most circumstances, expense transactions are going to be recorded through the property tab. However, there are some times, that it's prudent to enter an expense through the accounts page instead. And the first situation that I can think of when you would want to record an expense through the accounts page is when it's a bank-only expense, such as monthly bank service fees. Some accounts still charge you just a general fee. So since these don't apply to a property or a tenant, you're going to post this expense through the accounts page instead of the property page. And when you're posting a bank-only expense, just make sure to leave the property as none because we don't want to carry that over. And let's see, the second circumstance in which you would post an expense transaction through the accounts page versus the property page is if you are recording what we call a split transaction. And so let's talk about a split transaction. What is it? And it's basically an expense that has one payee, but it contains multiple aspects of the expense, such as paying a vendor for multiple invoices, for completed work, say at multiple rental properties that you manage, or maybe the vendor completed different types of work on one property, such as they did both repairs and replacements and maybe supplies. So by using that add a line feature that you see there in the bottom left, you're going to be able to break out the one vendor payment into those pieces of the transaction. So remember that undeposited funds account we talked about earlier? So if you decide to use this feature to create bank deposits, I want to walk you through those steps. So when posting a rent payment, instead of having the payment recorded in the bank ledger, it's going to be actually deposited into. I want you to instead select undeposited funds for the transaction account. So think of this undeposited funds like your desk drawer where you store all the checks and cash you've received in your office before you go to the bank. And when you're ready to deposit all the payments, you're going to open that desk drawer and you're going to open the undeposited funds ledger in your Rentec account, and you're going to choose that option that you see to make a deposit. And here you're going to be able to select which transactions are going to be part of that deposit and which account they're going to go into. So once you've created a bank deposit, you can print a deposit slip or a summary page, and there are going to be printing instructions available for you as well. So here's a sample of the deposit slip and the summary that you're going to be able to print out. And if you plan to use the undeposited funds feature, Just be sure to set your default income account on your properties to undeposited funds. You see that there in the lower left of the screen. For clients who are using their accounts for electronic payments, we see some of our clients electing to use the undeposited feature side by side with EasyPay. And they do that so that they can mimic batch deposits of those ACH and credit card payments. So this is an advanced option we're not going to really get into today, but if you want to do this and you want to talk to your client success team about how you're going to be able to do that, and especially if it relates to using more than one bank account for electronic collection. So reach out to Catherine and her team and she'll walk you through that. So one last note about undeposited funds and bank deposits. If you do elect to create bank deposits in your Rentec account, if you want to access a list of all those historical deposits, just open up the undeposited funds ledger and you can click on that button you see there in the upper right and it's going to display those for you. So for those of you who want to print checks through your software, just know it's really easy. So when you're recording an expense, go ahead and select print check for the expense type. And when you're ready to print out one or more checks, just head over to your accounts tab and you're going to follow that link you see there. And in the next screen that pops up, select which checks you want to print and follow the prompts that you're going to see after that. There are some really good instructions. They're listed in this screen, so you won't have to go digging for them. So speaking of checks, if you receive a payment that does not clear your bank, it's oftentimes referred to as an NSF or non-sufficient funds. And you're going to want to reflect this return in your ledgers. And I've outlined the steps here. Basically, you're just posting a negative income transaction to the tenant ledger and you're referencing that original transaction. So I wanted to show that to you. If there are any fees that you incur due to this NSF, just be sure to post that to the property, the bank, and the tenant ledgers, and you're going to do this in a separate transaction. I mentioned EasyPay just a little earlier, so I want to talk about electronic payments that are tied to your bank account for a moment. So there are two options that you can consider. So both Pro and PM clients have these options tied to their bank accounts that you're using in your Rentec Direct account to collect rent. So online application fees as well, and dispersing funds to property owners each month. So ACH transactions, so that's bank to bank for, say, collecting rent and doing those owner payments, they do not have any transaction fees, and there are also no activation fees. And if you are only going to use one bank account, there are also no extra monthly fees. So it's a really convenient tool, and it's included in your monthly subscription. There are tools for tenants and applicants to pay by credit card as well. So it's very easy to get it set up for ACH and credit card payment options. And I mentioned we call it EasyPay. And you're going to find the application in your settings tab. So make sure you complete steps 1 and 2, as there are 2 forms to complete. Sometimes people just see that first step and then it causes a delay in your application processing. But the typical turnaround is roughly 1 to 2 weeks before you're actually active using it in your account. So jump on that right away if you want to be using that. And if you have more than one bank account you want to activate for ACH and credit card payments, you'll find the necessary application form in the bank account page. So the first one is under settings, and then secondary accounts are actually in that secondary bank page. And we have a webinar on EasyPay that's going to walk you through all these setup steps, as well as how to use all the features. So take a look at that YouTube link and that'll direct you to it. So similar to EasyPay for those credit card and ACH payments, Pro and PM clients have the option to collect cash rent payments electronically. And the cash payment network that we use allows tenants to pay cash at thousands of locations across the nation. So the cash payment tool is called Pay Near Me. So you'll hear that referenced in some of the knowledge base articles. And it has a few requirements to use, such as you must manage at least 50 rentals in Rentec, and you must process at least 10 cash payments per month through the cash payment tool. So there's no transaction fee for you, and the $3.99 fee, it's just a flat fee, is paid by your tenant when they're at the cash payment location. So there is a one-time setup fee for connecting your bank account to this network. So keep that in mind. It's a $200 one-time fee. And to kind of give you an idea of how it works, tenants can use either printed instructions that will come from your account, and it contains a barcode that they can then, deliver to the retailer where they're paying. They also can have these instructions and that barcode sent to their phone. So very convenient for both options there. All right, let's take a 1-minute break. Let's stand up, grab a cup of coffee, or take a drink here. So let's maybe stretch. We're going to have to delve into more meaty topics related to bank accounts, such as how to transfer funds between accounts, pay out property manager fees, handle bank reconciliation, and bank sync. So shake it out a little bit. I've thrown a couple questions on over to each of you, and you can see those in the poll button. It's right next to that questions button. So click on that, and let's just see, how we all compare. I always like to see, since we're in the room together, what's your teammate doing out there? And just a reminder, if you have questions about topics we've already covered, just feel free to shoot them on over to us through your webinar tool. Catherine's waiting over there to get answers to you, and we just want you to feel when you leave here like you are crystal clear on how to use your bank account tools. So don't be shy, ask all the questions you need. And hey, Catherine, I want to bring you back over there. Catherine, have you been busy with webinar questions, or have you been fielding support phone calls while I've been talking this whole time?
Actually, we're working on those webinar questions, and I'm staring at that cute little kitty there on our screen. Wondering if that's going to be our new office cat.
I mean, what's not to love about like a little kitty cat, right? Yeah. All right, well, let's dig right back in. I think we gave our minute stretch time. If you ever find yourself needing to move money between two of the bank accounts you manage, you are going to have the means to do so within your Rentec account. And the actual transfer, that happens outside of the software, maybe by logging into your online banking. However, in your Rentec account, it's just a paper trail or a bookkeeping entry. So it's not triggering the actual transfer of funds. I just want to mention that so you know you're not triggering a true transfer. But to document the transfer, I want you to open up the bank account ledger you're moving funds out of, and you're going to select the Transfer Funds button at the top. And then it's simply listing the amount you're moving from one account to the other. Now, for our property managers out there that are using Rentec PM, if you are assessing automated management fees each month, and then you're paying yourself those fees out each month out of a bank account, you have the option to post that payment of those assessed management fees in one batch transaction rather than several individual transactions. Who wants to reconcile, maybe 100 transactions when it could be one? So the first step in the process is actually handled at the property level in the property page by setting up the default expense bank account and management fee structure. So do that through your property page, and then the management fees will assess on the property automatically. And then when you're ready to pay out those bulk fees in one transaction, you're going to go to the accounts page, and then from the bank account menu, you'll select Pay Property Manager. And next, you're going to choose your date range and the transactions you want to pay out. So recently, the development team added a feature to capture management fees that were not properly linked on the property page, which is helpful because sometimes that happens when you're doing initial setup. You might have missed it. So just be sure to click on that blue arrow you see there towards the bottom. And if you do have any management fees that are not linked to a default bank account, you can click them in. And once you've selected all the files you want to pay out, just click that next button you see there. And you're going to be taken to an expense transaction screen like I have here for you, and you're going to be able to select the payment type, and you're going to want to verify all the other fields that they're set the way you want. And just remember, you don't need to list any property names in this step, as those fees were already assessed at the property level. So once you click the Post Expense button, your management fee is now going to be recorded in your bank ledger. And if you're printing a check, it's going to go over to your account queue to print out later. So another great feature that we offer related to bank account management is a bank sync. And if you've never used this tool, check it out. It allows you to connect your actual bank account. So this is when things get live. So you can connect your actual bank account to your Rentec account and compare your transactions. And you just are checking to see, what's been recorded in your actual bank account, and if you've missed recording those transactions in your Rentec account. So this allows you to capture them at that point. So to start a bank sync, select the option in your bank account menu. You're going to see that there. And then you're going to be able to link your bank account by clicking on that blue button there. And once you start the process and you click the continue button, you're going to be able to search for your bank account and then enter your bank account's bank sync username and password. I want to say that again. It's the bank sync username and password. So you may need to reach out to your bank to verify those login credentials, as these may not be the same as your regular online banking login and password. Some banks have separate ones. So if you try this and it doesn't work, that could be the issue. So once you're synced, you'll see this screen. And next, you'll choose end date for transactions, and then you're going to click the Synchronize button. And once you've synced your account, you're going to be able to match the bank transaction on the left to the transactions on the right that are in your Rentec account. Or you're going to be able to create a new entry. That's for if you don't have the entry already in your Rentec account. And luckily, we have a detailed knowledge base article you can follow side by side for the first time to handle this task, since there are a handful of steps and you may want that guide handy. So once you've finished your bank sync, if you open up your bank ledger, you're going to notice that all transactions you've synced have that capital C, or actually I think it's a lowercase c, next to the transactions in the right column. And those transactions that you see in your bank ledger that have an R next to them, they have gone through the next process we're going to talk about. I've just done it in advance. So the next topic we're going to talk about is bank account reconciliation. So why would you reconcile your Rentec Direct bank account? It's just to be sure that all the activity that is hitting your actual bank account has been captured in your Rentec Direct software. So, your financial reports are accurate. That's really important. And the first step is to open your bank account ledger, and you're going to click on that button to reconcile. And then you're going to enter your bank statement date and the balances, and then you're going to click that begin button. So once you're in this reconciliation screen, you're going to be checking your Rentec account transactions, checking them off as they appear on your bank statement. So if you click the button you see there for Mark All, and it's in the bottom there on the right, and you notice that the amounts match, meaning the difference is at 0, then you can pretty safely assume you've done a great job of recording all your activity in your account, and it's actually going to be reconciled. And then you can just click that finished button. But if the difference is not 0, you're going to want to match your transactions up individually until you find that missing transaction. So once you know what's missing in your Rentec ledgers while you're looking at your bank statement, you can click that button you see there that says Finish Later, and then you'll go post those missing transactions. Then you'll come back to this page and you're going to complete the process. If you're unable to discover why the difference is not 0 and you still want to complete the reconciliation process, you have the option to post a ledger adjustment transaction. Remember how we were talking about you can update the balance? Well, this is a similar tool. So this adjustment, it can be deleted afterwards also. So if you just want to finish it and you want to dig later, you can delete that adjustment if you need to. So Catherine, I know you've been busy answering questions over there, so thank you, but I wanted to know if you could jump back in here to maybe share some questions that we hear about the bank reconciliation process. Can you share that with us?
One thing I've noticed with most of our clients when they do the bank account reconciliation, they tend to sometimes get confused with the screen, but just keep in mind that this is no different than in the good old days when we had the paper check register. So you simply are matching the transactions with your bank statement, and then it would hopefully be a little easier for you. It's your check register online versus you keeping a paper trail, on the good old fashioned check registers. So with the bank account reconciliation, there's always questions. So if you get stuck, our success team is here to help you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Catherine. So all completed bank reconciliations that you do in your software are going to have a report that you can reference, and a reconciliation report includes the previous and current balance. It also has the cleared and uncleared transaction and the transaction detail. And Rentec automatically archives every bank reconciliation report for you, so you can retrieve them if you ever need them in the future.
So after you reconcile and you've created this report, I've noticed that some of our clients have gone back and made corrections after it's been reconciled. Um, Please keep in mind it's so much better for you in the long run to go ahead and do a journal entry for your correction than editing a transaction that's already reflecting on this report. We've seen this come up, and especially in audits. So again, once you create your reconciliation, you print your report. If you notice later, oops, I need to make a correction, please do a journal entry for that correction.
Such a good point. I mean, we give you the tools so that you can decide, how you want to manage your account, but that is an excellent recommendation. So there are user permissions as well that you may want to consider for those secondary users in your account. And Catherine mentioned a journal entry. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically a secondary transaction where you're using one of the other types of transaction categories other than income or expense. Is that a good summary, you would say, Catherine?
Yes, that would be good because we don't have a journal entry button per se in Rentec, but you can make your correction either using the income or expense in order to offset whatever you need to for that correction. Again, we're here to help if you have any questions.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So just to retrieve any past reconciliation reports, if you want them, you can get those from the accounts menu, and you're just going to choose notes and history. And then you can just click on that reconciliation entry that you see there. While we're in the screen, you're going to notice that if you're in the notes and history section, that there may be some other activity that you've done, and it's going to be recorded here for you to view. So our grand finale for bank account management is three-way reconciliation. And this is the godfather of checks and balances for your accounting. And this monthly practice is how you're going to find any mistakes that might have been made throughout the month by you or say another account user. And if you have more than one person working in your account, that's what I'm referencing. So let me stress that this should be a monthly practice and not a yearly practice, ideally monthly. So if you're like many clients, in a year, you may have hundreds of transactions depending on the size of your portfolio. And trying to find an error in hundreds of transactions, it can be very daunting, especially at the end of the year when you're prepping for taxes. You don't want to have this headache. So and you certainly don't want to have accounting errors that you can't find if you ever find yourself in the middle of the audit. I know Catherine will tell you that. So I'm going to bring Catherine back on stage to explain the three-way reconciliation worksheet, as she has been an excellent helper for many clients with this task who maybe didn't do their three-way reconciliation on a monthly basis. So Catherine, I'm turning this one over to you.
All right, thanks, Janelle. So in regards to the three-way reconciliation, again, I'm going to note that there's some states now that require that this be done on a regular basis and submitted to the state. Some are requiring that it be put in your folder on a monthly basis, so you have it there in case you ever go through an audit. So it's very important to follow through with your three-way reconciliation, because I think we're going to see that more state regulations are going to make it a requirement. So when they do or happen to come in for an audit, that you have these available. Now, every state is not always created equal on their reconciliation worksheet. So this is a sample worksheet. Yours might look a little different, but the outcome should still be the same. We went through the bank reconciliation earlier, so that's more of a two-way. It's the bank reconciliation versus your bank statement, and everything balancing that way. But your three-way reconciliation also includes your client ledgers and any security deposits you may have on hand in that bank account. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to do this on a monthly basis, as Janelle mentioned earlier, so you can find those errors quickly and make those adjustments as needed. And again, if you do have to make an adjustment, it's not always that bad, but it's good to document why you had to make that adjustment so you can explain it later if needed.
Yeah, thank you so much, Catherine. And again, I know we've said this before, but if you need help, reach out to your client success team, and they are trained in helping clients go through this. They work with several clients every day, hundreds probably. So they are going to have more experience than your first time tackling this. And I know, after you complete the bank reconciliation and you do the three-way reconciliation successfully, your Rentec bank account ledgers are going to be balanced, just like this beautiful picture. And that's a great feeling. I know for clients that finally, who maybe have struggled with this or they've never done it, they just are so relieved that they actually did that process. So thank you, Catherine, for walking us through that. Our next webinar is on March 18th, and it's dedicated to a brand new feature, and it's being developed by Travis on our development team. And I invite you to join me as you have the first peek at this new batch transaction tool. So many clients over the years that I've been here at Rentec Direct have been requesting this. So I'm really excited about getting to share it with you before it actually goes live. So mark your calendars and register for the webinar now. And again, thanks, Catherine, for being here today to help answer your questions that you have out there, and just for being an expert to our clients over the last 8 years. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Janelle, and I appreciate you. You did a great job with this webinar today. I didn't have to talk that much, which is kind of different for me working in the client success team on a regular basis.
Right. You've been busy typing away the questions. So thanks again. And hey, have a great day, friends. See you later.